That was
Hello.
so ridiculously cool.
Welcome to episode 33 already of Lawfully Chaotic. What do you guys think of the new intro?
That was so cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
so
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time in Premiere today.
Can't imagine why.
paid
That was
off.
our surprise. That was
Your
awesome.
surprise. That was your
was
surprise.
awesome.
That was
Yeah,
everyone's surprise.
There's
That
probably
was
no one
fun.
that saw it but us. But that's okay. It'll eventually become the theme.
I love it.
Welcome to Lawfully Chaotic. Thank you for joining us. As always, are my awesome co-hosts. Oh, sweet. That is that Jordan or Andrew? And Vince. Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We have a new member of the chat. That is Rocket House Games. I'm going to talk about that in one second. But as always, are my awesome co-hosts Sharon, the fabulous Barrybot, and Jason Baldrick of TTRPG Academy. Welcome, Jordan. Thank you. It is Jordan. Thank you for joining, brother. And Vince, thank you for joining. How are you guys doing? I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. We took a week off, and it seems like a year.
Yeah, it sure
Hey,
feels
Fatal,
like
what's
it,
up?
doesn't it?
How are you guys doing? Sharon, what's going on? Announcements.
Hey, nothing really other than that really cool wait screen was awesome. I'm in love with it. So cool.
I think I might
Literally
quit my
on
job as
fire.
a designer and become a
A
designer.
designer.
Plot twist.
Oh, it's
Plot
twisted.
twist.
All right.
I'm gonna
It's twisted.
I'm a fighter that's gonna multi-class as a fighter.
You don't need to multi-class anymore because you're automatically an expert now. At level 1, you're an expert. Didn't you read?
You're
a
born
new
to be.
documentation
Oh my God,
that they dropped? You're an expert automatically
reminds
in
me-
everything that you do.
There was a video, oh my God, what was it called? Summoner Geeks. Have you ever seen that video? I'm gonna find it for next episode.
How dare you?
I was doing fine, but then started. Yes. Jace, what about you? Any
I was
announcements?
doing fine. You know what, Fatal? Disadvantage all day on Saturday. Just so you know. Pretty good. I think sleep deprivation makes me twitchy.
How many
no pun
games you running
intended.
now a week? 70?
10. I'm running 9 pay to play, 1 private. I had one in the pipe for my 10th pay to play, but I just wasn't getting enough hits and I think it's just a bad time slot.
Yeah.
3 to 6 is a rough one, even for Central and East Coast. And with all the prime time slots kind of filled up, I've just kind of, you know what, I'm pretty happy with my Thursdays and Friday schedule now. So
Good.
we are trying to put together another live game in the studio for Tuesdays. And then Debtor's Gambit will be coming back in November. So I'm working on...
That's the one I'm in. Huh.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm trying to...
That's news for you.
Remember, you guys are in the Feywild now, looking for...
I do remember that.
Looking for an orc's mother, not mother, who's left his father, not father. And evidently has left them for Strahd, as we're going to do
Awesome.
as the world turns in the Shadowfell. But yeah, I'm just trying to shift some schedules for the weekends, and then hopefully, by I don't know, maybe mid-November we'll be playing Debtor's Gambit again
Awesome.
up until summer. I kind of like the Debtor's Gambit theme as a kind of fun fall through spring, and then everyone just takes the summer off to do whatever they want and then bring it back again. I like that group. It's a fun group.
It's tough to D&D in the summer, especially in Chicago when you have like 4 months of good weather and you want to really...
My pay-to-play tables did really well this summer, so I was a little surprised. But
Well, out there,
right.
I mean, you guys are spoiled with weather, so you can play year-round. Out here in the summer, it's like, I got to get the fuck outside.
Yeah, this is true.
It's fall and it's 100 degrees over here. It's supposed to be sweater weather in
Yeah.
California.
It is in Chicago. We had a couple nice days. Andrew, thanks for joining. 'Tis the season now and shit. Yeah.
How many subs for Jen to go back to Warlock?
Right.
All the subs. All the subs.
I have something to share. So that bachelor party
Yeah, how was the bachelor party?
Well, first of all, it was this last Saturday, not 2 Saturdays ago, because like a dum-dum, I actually had it wrong in the calendar. And Andrew, my new best bud, Andrew, who is in chat, thanks, Andrew, reminded me, he like frantically texted me. He's like, dude, it's not tomorrow, it's next. I'm like, oh, fuck. So, but anyway, it was fantastic. I had such a fucking good time. So Jordan, who is Rocket House Games in the chat there, it was his bachelor party. So once again, Jordan, congratulations.
Oh.
Andrew,
Wow,
his brother, set up the whole thing at Jordan's place and did the most amazing job of decorating, like a whole just like D&D kind of theme. It was just freaking fantastic.
How fun!
Dude, Vince. So okay, so I should have got a picture from Andrew.
Did it happen?
So after we were talking about that on last week's or 2 weeks ago show about the strippers, and then Gary brought it up and you brought it up, he showed me the cake that he got later that night. Yeah, he's got photos. And it is a cake with a picture of an orc stripper on a pole. No joke. It was fucking awesome. But I mean, cool. I schlepped like 100 pounds of crap, like all my Dwarven Forge terrain, my wooden Dogmite DM screen. I mean, it was insane. But it was 8 guys, 3 of whom played before. 1 who had played like 1 time, and then all newbies. And Andrew also did the most amazing job of creating all 8 characters for them and writing up the sheets. And I had never seen such fantastic like color commentary on a character sheet. Like the wizard was based on Harry Potter, so all of the spells were real spells, but they were like Sectum Sempra, Alohomora, stuff like that. There was a Batman character who was a monk, but everything was like bring the darkness and that it was, I mean, it was fucking, it was just off the rails. Awesome. So it went, you are most welcome, my friend. It was fantastic.
It sounds amazing.
So yeah, it went really well. And before I forget, Jordan has this awesome game called Crazy Cultists. This is a game that he designed and produces, and it is, and he gave me a copy. Plant Man. So Andrew's character.
Is that the druid?
Yes. However, he was not a druid that wild shapes into a plant. He was actually a house plant that was able to wild shape into a human. So they carry him around as a house plant.
Basically Fern was Fern.
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was so much fucking fun. But anyway, this game, so as you know, I'm also a board game guy, and I love like kind of pocket travel, easy to play games. So this is a really awesome game that Jordan gave me that you have to basically like, you have a little pentagram board, and then there's cards, and you have to collect candles and complete the ritual to summon a demon. And the first one to do that wins. That's the most basic description of it.
And we're certain that if you summon a demon, you win. We're certain about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's a real demon. But anyway, this is like that's the win. But this is such a fun little like quick game night type game. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. So check it out. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and you should buy this.
That's awesome.
Because it's an awesome little game. It really is. And Jordan also did all the art himself. It's really freaking cool.
Ages 10 plus. Wow.
More than me. Yeah, definitely Satanic Panic, but who fucking cares? Because it is cool as shit. So check that out. I'm gonna put the link in the chat.
Wait, what if your family is the demon?
Then you can banish them. If you win, you banish the demon.
Come on, let's play. Let's go. Come on. Oh,
But yeah,
sorry.
it is
Maybe later.
it is just it's hilarious. The copy I would advise if you like fun like game night quick easy games, I would advise getting it. It's really
I
awesome.
love
That's
pocket.
So yeah,
awesome.
the party
I've
just
got like
was
2 whole shelves dedicated to pocket games. I think they're amazing.
yeah, me too. Oh, you are most welcome, buddy. It was freaking awesome. I mean, I had a blast. I haven't laughed that hard during a D&D game in a long freaking time. So,
What was one of the best highlights from the
yeah.
game?
Dish.
Did anybody get hit with a fireball?
I don't think anybody used
No,
a couple of the
airborne
highlights. I
fireball?
don't think I can really share.
Did
here.
anybody? I was gonna say, did anybody cast HPV?
Well, you went there, but
All right.
I mean, there were so many. The house plant like jumping
That is,
around
like,
in its
great.
pot, and people carrying the house plant
It's already
around
off the rails.
was a highlight. Oh, the artificer. Had like these charges. So he also provided everybody with magic items on their sheets. That too.
Zombie stuck in the window.
So
What?
there was a warlock who was trying to climb in the window of this tavern and got halfway through, failed the dex check, so he got stuck like in the window, like with his legs flailing out the back and whatnot. And then there was the artificer had a bag full of these charges and literally blew the floor out of this tavern to get down to the lower level and decimated like 3 enemies down below. It was actually really fucking
creative.
ingenious.
That's the
Yeah,
kind
I was
of
like,
creativity that keeps us
okay.
going.
Yeah, so it was just a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. And
you guys see my
Sharon,
new toy first. You guys see my new toy?
holy cow!
Oh,
My new
You
toy.
bought it?
Yes, I did.
If you tell
'Cause-
me that you got that at a game shop for like $90, I'm gonna drive out there.
Oh
and
God, I wish
murder
it's out
you.
of print. It's a collector's item now.
what? Wow.
Yeah,
That
it's
thing's
out of
like
print. They don't-
$350, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't.
So
they
now
don't
it's
make
probably
them
worth
anymore. So that's
$700.
Now the shop is going to be really happy with me because I'm buying their Afridi and their old school, like the old school Afridi.
It is
the
Tiamat.
DM, from the Dungeon Master's Guide, the big freestanding one that they have, and then I'm also going to get the Githyanki that they have there too, because I always wait for them to go out of print before I decide to buy them. Because once
I
they're out
haven't
of
even
print,
seen these.
oh yeah,
These are WizKids?
they're most well, yeah, but I think they're mostly sold to shops originally as a way to, hey, your order reached $10,000 this month. Here
yeah,
you go.
okay.
Put this on your shelf.
Oh wow, so those are going to be worth something.
Maybe we'll see. I just love it because it looks gorgeous. It's just so pretty.
Yeah.
That's
And it's
Woe
going
to
to
the
be
players.
in one of my campaigns. So
that's very cool.
Oh no.
I do that too. Sometimes I will create an entire encounter or sometimes story arc or even a campaign around like a mini.
Well,
Is
Tiamat
that really
doesn't
a
even.
mini?
Yeah, that's not
No.
a mini. Like
No,
if
that
you
thing's
have a mini
practically
sit
frickin'
next to
rideable.
her.
You know what I want to use? So in one of the Kickstarter games that I backed, the board games, Cthulhu, Death May Die by Simon Games.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there is a 2.5 foot tall Cthulhu mini that was like one of the Kickstarter exclusives that I bought. And
Yeah, I have
I'm
the little
like,
one.
What does the
yeah,
normal
this thing
say?
is literally, I haven't painted it yet because I'm afraid to paint it, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
2.5 feet tall. I'm like, I gotta create a campaign around this mini just so I can use this.
Here's the
You got a
micro
toddler
version.
Cthulhu. Ah,
That's
oh
awesome.
my gosh.
That's
That's the
awesome.
micro one.
Oh.
Yeah, I should have brought the
Holy
Cthulhu
cow.
up here, but anyway, so Sharon, what are we talking about tonight?
Hey guys, thank you all for joining us for another night of Lawfully Chaotic. Today we're going to be talking about what's hot on the press. D&D 1 Unearthed Arcana. We have new updates for the classes for Rogue, Bard, and Ranger. I don't
Oh.
know if you all have taken a look at the new docket of information for expert classes. So we're going to be diving into that tonight. And chat, feel free to throw in comments and concerns or questions for the new update.
I heard a grunt from Jason.
I'm
Is it possible that we may actually swap opinions tonight?
Oh, are you telling me you like this garbage?
Whoa, shots fired, Jason.
That's what I'm telling you.
This is
I could literally so I had this cool meme in mind, and if I had I want to build this meme and let Barrybot express it, because I feel like they'd be less likely to bash her because, you know, she's Barrybot.
Yeah.
The meme was, you know, this really bored corporate hack and wearing a WOTC shirt, you know, and it was going to be, hey, you know, really shitty the way that Spelljammer thing turned out, right? And then the other side would be this, like, you know, kind of like sellout shill, you know, with the shirt that says shill. Yeah, but don't worry, we just bought D&D Beyond, you know, we got all that data. And then Watsy's all, oh yeah, let's kit bash it and call it something else. You mean let's call it playtest material? No, let's call it ONE D&D. Great, I'll get on that right away. I literally can find paraphrases in here from the homebrew cookery. All they did was just take out of the homebrew cookery and they mashed it about.
So for those of you not familiar with D&D, with ONE D&D yet, it is basically it is not a new version of the D&D rules. It is built not yet. It is built upon the 5e rules. It's basically takes a lot of homebrew stuff that's been going on over the years and just amending rules and stuff like that. So that is funny, Jace, because when the first one came out, I think you had a little bit more optimistic view, and I kind of bashed it.
I was optimistic that they were actually gonna. I guess I was optimistic they were gonna focus and like deliver it in such a way that was gonna make sense. The first half of the material and the second half of the material just don't make any sense. So it's like like if you compare the two, they don't really do much for me, because it's like I'm already homebrewing all this stuff. So I'm definitely jaded from the standpoint that when I look at this is detail I was considering 5 years ago. So this is for a crowd. This is for a very specific crowd that it's going to make sense for. You know, I was being a little on the devil's advocate side because I like to be. But this felt very much.
That was summer, Jason. Winter is coming.
See, this is when we need that cool creativity for you to like play the video of like, you know, Jon Snow walking through the gates into, you know.
So for those of you that don't know, this second iteration involves new magic spells and items. It also has like a skill tree style for each of the rogue, bard, and ranger classes. There will be 12 base classes and an additional 48 subclasses for those three, which involve experts and warriors, to name a few. And actually, out of the first phase of ONE D&D, over 40,000 people have contributed to the surveys and for condensing the content. So I thought that was really interesting.
Which I think is one reason why they backpedaled on that critical hit shit.
It's funny. I got halfway through that survey and then I woke up the next day. I don't know why.
Yeah, skill trees are
that I do like.
Yeah,
that I do like. I do like what the creativity of the skill trees.
Okay, and to your point, I mean, you are familiar, I think, with my skill tree homebrew.
Like critical shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, you're a caster. You no longer. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I don't think it was so much to keep. I don't think it was so much to keep marshals up with casters. I think it was to avoid a critical on someone using like a divine smite or a sneak attack assassinate and doing 80 or 90 points of damage with one fucking attack.
Well, Bear, knowing what you know about Mira, if you look at the way Mira is now and you start looking at the idea of the way they're obviously making magic a little bit simpler, I guess
more accessible.
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting is when I was all on board with the idea of a simple school of magic resolution to a certain degree, like the holistic idea, but yet they still released a very bloated spell list. So that felt a little kind of weird to me. It's like, why don't you just really just feed us spoonfuls of stuff we can test? And when I looked at that bloated spell list, I was like, no.
What do you mean? Why do you say bloated spell list? It's the spell list, but it is condensed into 3 simpler groups.
Yes. So I apologize. So it's primal, arcane, and divine spell lists for all 3 of those classes.
Right.
And ritual casting will become available to every class as long as they're able to learn the spell. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that they did say, again, to make it more accessible to less experienced players, is that there's going to be suggested spell prep lists for every caster class for every level, which I personally wouldn't use, but I think that is really great for people struggling, because all non-experienced players struggle with what spells to take. So
yeah,
I don't know. I go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's actually really good because I'm kind of a new player, so this would have definitely helped me create my druid, but I went ahead and did the min-max route, so
nothing wrong with that.
Heck no, I love it. I love it. I've fallen in love with Mara. I think she's a great PC. I think she's awesome.
Yeah. So but now I totally get why people say that like druids are kind of OP. They're really awesome.
What level are you?
14.
Okay, so yeah, you are realizing how OP they are.
Almost godly.
It is literally. See, we always end up bashing on druids. Well, I do. It is literally a class that can do anything, which is ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think D&D 1 is trying to fix nothing. I think what they're doing is they're recognizing a broader audience of spectator, and they're focusing their marketing money on that broader audience because it's got the better value of return. There's absolutely no value of return in my demographic or in Brian's demographic. It has all the expansion in the world for value of return with Sharon's demographic, because if you're net new or you're really looking to create net new storytellers, then this is what you build. You build a very kind of detailed hand walk you through your process, give you all the choices up front and organize the character for you, and then you just pick what character you want to go with.
Yeah, exactly.
That's who it was.
Saturday night, it would have been. So it's funny because from the very second that they released that video announcing ONE D&D, I said that I was both very excited and very scared. My excitement to fear ratio is actually leveling out based on this second iteration. So I think it's funny that you and I have kind of swapped opinions, but
I do that sometimes. I was super triggered by the Bard table because it reminded me how much I hated second edition.
So what are your guys' pros and cons from this new update? Jason, we'll go with you first.
So I'll give the main con and then I'll talk about a pro. The main con I have with it, you don't get to call reversal an update. This is not an update to an advanced system that you already have. This is a rollback. This is looking at 5th edition and saying, okay, let's take out the last bits of the convoluted sectors. Let's trim down a lot of the fluff and trim down a lot of the choices, and let's make it easier for everyone to build a game together.
Yeah, it's more condensed.
To me that's not, you don't get to call that an update. What you've done is you've built a new mini system within a pre-existing system. Maybe that's kind of their plan. I don't know, because the play testing seems kind of very vanilla to me. I would say my main pro that I have for it is that holistically, if this is all bundled together in the way that I think they're trying to go for, it will help newer players and newer DMs become creative faster, and therefore walk away from the WotC library and enjoy that 300,000, creator space that's out there for D&D, and really expand their horizons. Because if you're not trapped in the minutia of the core, then you learn quicker, you adapt quicker, you build games more efficiently and more immersive. And then you're like, great, now I got to start looking for stuff that I want to make wholly unique to my game. I could step out into the huge creator community and still have access to that good stuff. And I've learned what I need to learn from the core. So I have I like to play a little devil's advocate. I mean, I don't like, and I guess some of the minutia of what I don't like. Don't tell me what the DC is for the hide action. That's just, once again, don't tell me your mechanics when your mechanics are already freeform. Don't tell me the DC is 15 automatically. That's bullshit. They bake that into this, this second, release. I'm like, okay, that's obviously to help a newer DM, and I get that. But I don't even think a newer DM needs that. I think most newer DMs are going to look at the core DC system and still make sure it's very relevant to their game design, and they'll be fine. But it's just little, and the heroic action, that is a blatant theft from the homebrew community. It's a blatant theft. They would have never have thought of that on their own. So it's just the little things that I'm just like, okay, you clearly took it from here. I know where you got that from. I know where you got that from. Oh, and by the way, your entire plot is not an advanced edition. You're just taking all of your beginner box sets and you're going like that. And then you're saying, here's the rules for it.
Yeah. They're just condensing it more or less.
But you think, Brian?
Yeah.
I love you, Barry. You're so much better
I think
than
that
us.
everything you have just said is stupid and wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I'm totally kidding. I don't disagree with you that
Ding, ding.
this is like, I don't know if I would call it rollbacks, but to me, the word update, it's semantics. If they want to call it an update, so be it. I don't have a problem with that. What I see happening is, a lot of times when you develop a system, and it doesn't have to be a game system, it could be any type of system, and that evolves over time. What happens is little pieces of it evolve at different rates of other pieces. And then when you have crossover of some mechanics, you have... you find unbalancing happening and whatnot. And I think that's kind of what happened over the years with D&D is, there are aspects of the game that kind of went a little this way and became more convoluted, and other aspects that went this way and became more convoluted. So what I see is this just basically cleaning up and condensing all of that shit that's out there, whether it be from second edition or 3 or 4 or homebrew or whatever. So believe it or not, like I said, my opinion is kind of changing a little bit. I actually see it as a good thing. Now, as an advanced player, you're right. I don't want to be told what a DC is, but to me, that is a very easy thing to say, well, I'm just not going to use that. It's spur of the moment. When you change the crit rules, that's a major mechanic change that I had a problem with, and they changed it back, or somewhat. Okay. And just to go off on a little detailed tangent, I do not disagree with the fact that the crit damage mechanics should be amended. Whether that is crits don't double the damage and now they give you inspiration, or whatever that may be. What I had a problem with is taking away the critical hit ability from anybody not using a weapon. But
Right.
anyway, that's just a detail. But
Yeah.
what I would like to see is what they are doing in this kind of wrapping all this up and cleaning it up is to not forget the demographic that you and I are in, Jace, and make it still possible to homebrew on top of that. Like, I don't want to see them engineer these rules so tightly that you can no longer homebrew, and I don't think that's their goal. But I would love to see, if they're really going to do this, I would love to see, like, here are 3 ways to do X. Okay. If it's a critical hit, here's a more advanced, complicated way that might add a little bit of fun. Here is, the normal way, and here is a really simple beginner way. That would be an interesting take on a lot of this stuff. Same thing with the skill tree. Okay. And by the way, what they did, and here's where I will complain a little, what they did to me is not a skill tree. It's just saying you're a little bit better in some of these skills. A skill tree is what I did in my homebrew,
Right.
which is you pick every one of those skills, and then there's 4, 5, 6 sub skills, and you could become a super expert at one really.
And I can see where they're a little nervous about going down that pathway, because they kind of did a lot of that in 4th edition and kind of got blasted about trying to compete with MMOs and the whole, skill tree genre.
Okay, but again, do that as here's the advanced rules and here's the normal rules.
Simple.
The simple.
Once again, that's the purpose of basic and 1st edition, and then 2nd AD&D, right? I don't mind the churning for the purpose of the output of something that's going to feel like there's an improvement upon things, right? Bear, if you reading what you saw so far, and I know none of us have all the time in the world to read, but do you have a character in mind based on the 1st and 2nd release?
Yeah, that's fun. I was just gonna ask you, what is your
I have
take
no
on
interest
this?
in player characters from a creative standpoint. I'll never build a character beyond, narrative player character.
Mhm.
So with Cher being a much more prolific newer player, although I mean we played so long together now, I'd hardly call her a newer player anymore. She's really become a very proficient player, and I would ask anyone out there, if you have an open game, you should reach out to her, because she's good. She's really good. But seeing what you've seen so far, Cher, what would you run? What would you think that you would play?
And what is your opinion of all this stuff?
I mean, I haven't played D&D as long as you guys have had, so I'm literally learning as I'm going. I think it is good that they're communicating with the community to kind of improve and build upon it and just condense it more. I do think the crit hits are kind of silly. That I think they should retract. But to jump to Jason's question, the class that I was thinking of making, I mean, it's kind of difficult. I think it's technically multi-classing, but I was thinking of making a bard necromancer that is able to like raise the dead with their violin.
That's very
brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was thinking
That's
of playing
awesome.
that. So
But see, I don't know. I don't. Once again, do the new rules matter in that creativity fashion? I mean, it's like Sharon knows it's sitting at the table with the groups that I run. My first question usually is, okay, what do you want to build? It's not what you want to be or what you want to make. It's just, what do you want to build? We talk about it. So it's like, so I know that the content of anything is always going to cater to a specific crowd for the purposes of, if you're in the business of selling something as multicultural as D&D is, I can only imagine what those meetings must be like. I mean, the fact that they made such a horrific mistake with Spelljammer anything they do from this point on is going to be a real challenge for them because they are under the microscope now.
Pretty
Maybe
much.
that was on purpose, and that they did that with Spelljammer, because now they're like, well, you can only go up from here.
Well,
Gotta
I'm
hit
mostly
bottom first.
and I'm mostly referring to the fact they made a huge deal a year ago about their cultural sensitivity,
Mhm.
and then they released Spelljammer with that huge edit problem that should have been blatant and obvious. Even I
Which
was
one is
surprised
that?
when the one of the character races. I can't remember the name of it right now because it's already wiped from my memory. But there was a
Like chat.
there was a character race they let slip through there that was not appropriate for modern times.
Really?
Yeah, so it's almost like saying, look, you don't get to release a book called Asian Adventures because you're trying to make up for that horrible book you released back in the 80s and the 90s. I don't care who you are. You release a book called Oriental Adventures. There's something wrong with your staff. There's something wrong with, even back then we knew that was wrong, and they still got away with that crap, right? So I know for a fact that they have these concerns and these things that they've got to root out and they've got to get organized around. But
I still have that book, by the way.
Their game lately,
Wait, that's a real book?
It is. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
horrific.
I have it.
I thought you were saying that as like conjecture. Oh
No,
no!
it was real.
No! That makes
It was
it
real.
so much worse.
Yeah,
Sharon, the
and
80s
back
were
then-
great. That's when racism was wholesome.
Yeah, if you say so. I cringed when that book came out, and I never used it. I was like,
Yeah.
"Are you kidding me? This is the pinnacle of creativity, right?" So,
What?
and
Did
I
you
know
buy it?
No, I never bought that book ever.
I did not buy the
Never.
copy I have. It was given to me, by the way.
Yeah,
Just
I
as
never
a
bought
point of
it.
Note.
Yeah,
Oh no!
there were so. I mean, so to their consternation, we haven't seen any kind of exactly.
Yeah.
They haven't seen.
Mhm.
I mean,
Every
when did
day.
fifth edition? When did fifth edition come out? I can't even. Like what? 8, 9.
2014?
So 8 years ago. Yeah. So 8 years
I
ago.
think 2014.
The one thing you could say about fifth edition is an 8-year run is pretty damn good.
Mhm.
And I get the fact that now they're probably at the top of the bell curve for sales. It's like, okay, because if you notice, their main releases for the last 5 years have been box sets. The constant issuing of box sets. Their combination of this, their digital marketing campaign, they're wanting to compete with the VTT world because remote is here to stay. It's never going to go away. It's endemic to the gaming culture, which, let's be honest, it was endemic to the gaming culture when it came to console and PC gaming to begin with.
Yeah.
It just took a while for the tabletop community to finally kind of catch up to it. You've got your trailblazers, like Dimension 20, Critical Role, Drunks and Dragons, and all these other ones that have been around for a long time who have been trying to share their game with the community. And I think what they've done here is a smart thing to do. I don't believe in nostalgia socks. I don't wear nostalgia socks because it's not interesting to me. I think this is basically telling the dumpster fire community, we understand you're never going to love us. That's fine. These dollars are more important to us, and we want to help them get into the game. And then once they're in the game, if they decide to look at the plethora of content that exists out there as a means to further their game, then fine. It'll be available to them.
I'll be honest. I really feel like a lot of the content that they've released over the past couple of years is kind of shitty, to be honest. I think it is filler, and it is,
it's meh.
Yeah.
Well,
and it is kind of like, hey, look what's going on with D&D. We can publish all of this shit, and half the books that I've bought over the past couple of years have never left my shelf. I do think that, again, I do not, as long as they do what they said they were going to do and not come out with another edition where basically all the 5e stuff goes to the wayside and you got to start buying all new shit. As long as they avoid that, I actually think what they're doing is good. Like I said, it cleans it up. Now, I think if they were smart, they would.
If-
Well, so okay, so
It's a great
5e,
question. Great
so
question.
yeah, so D&D 1 is not meant to replace 5e. That's what they have said.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all built on top of 5e. So you don't have to forego 5e. That is, I'm quoting them. So what this does is it cleans up a lot of the rules. It streamlines it. I think if they were smart, they would make these changes and build this system so that it can still be expanded upon. And I don't mean modules or, here's another world. I mean, hey, here's 6 completely new classes that the game hasn't seen in 40 years, stuff like that. And I still think that, if I'm still of the mindset where they're going to continue to sell this game, okay, unless this segment is theirs to lose. All right, this fucking game has been around for 50 years, and its popularity is only going up. The way I see it, they can only fuck it up from here. All right. I still think the real moneymaker for them is what we've talked about and what you just mentioned, which is curating the community, which they have not done to date, getting the VTT up and all of that stuff, all of those. We've talked about microtransactions. We've talked about gamifying the community, okay? Gamifying the experience of playing the game. That is where I think their money is. And it's funny because last Friday night, we played and we were using Roll20 and Discord and D&D Beyond. And it worked rather well, although Roll20 still is a fucking dumpster fire, in my opinion. But it was a perfect example right there. Don't continue shoveling books of mediocre content in front of me. Give me a fucking solution to the remote play, which in turn will then just continue to expand the community and bring in more people that are going to, that will buy the game. Everybody that plays the game is going to buy shit anyway. So that's kind of the way
point, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. I don't see D&D 1 as we're going to totally revamp this to get more people to buy the game. I mean, that's probably their thought process. That would not be my thought process.
I think they're just making it more approachable.
Absolutely.
I like how they're rolling it out because like the first phase was, just building your character, getting to know your character. And then this second phase is getting into like the more mechanical sort of aspect for at least the rogue, the bard, and the ranger.
Yeah, that's a good question, Jordan. I don't know if they haven't said if there's going to be any planned releases of books, to be honest.
Well, and I think Bear hits it right on the spot, and I missed that. She summarized it in one sentence. They're making it more approachable.
Absolutely,
exactly what this is. I didn't even occur to me. And once again, her demographic sees that. My demographic doesn't see it as being more approachable because I've already been approached. So from that perspective, it's going to play to a much larger audience, and that's you hit it on the spot, Cher. And just summed up that whole thing that they're doing.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a good thing, but that should not be their impetus to let's double our game sales.
If they want to keep the lights on, they better.
There's other channels to be able to do that. I'm not saying don't make the game better. Okay.
Yeah, but Bri, we got to save up money for our pacemakers. Our demographic is shrinking. We're not expanding.
Jeepers.
It's true. Our demographic is shrinking. It really is. And I think Cher's demographic is ever expanding. And I think it's not a hard reality. It's just a factual reality.
Well, the way I see it, doing what I do on a daily basis in my career, the way to do that and reach these new audiences is curate that social community. Don't give me 6 more books that I'm never gonna fucking open.
Fair. Your thought, Sherry? You had one going.
And it left.
It derailed.
Well, no.
Approachable. You were
I
saying
think it is.
approachable.
Yeah, no, I think it's good the way they're approaching this to make it more easier for people to get into. You see me good night, you want me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Honestly, that would be way more fun.
It would be.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you guys that they should get more involved with the community. I think it's such a wellspring of innovation and just all around fun and improvements to the game. Really, if they really are genuinely wanting to make this game more fun and engaging, they should reach out to the community for that.
And to your point, Cher, the fact that they're releasing, a general release of playtest material.
Yeah,
it's a good start. It really is a good start.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're responding to the feedback is a really good start. But what's interesting is my world is analytics. My world is data. And when you produce data that tells me there's millions and millions of players and only 60,000 surveys, then when you go to look at that result of your 60,000 surveys, your very first focal point is going to be the demographic of age range. Because you don't have to give a birth date. You don't have to give your precise age. They're going to have a formula that's going to extrapolate through the question and answer process that's going to give them their understanding of an average age of those survey responses.
And who do you think is the bulk of that 60,000 people?
The target range?
No, I think the bulk of it is like me.
You and me.
Yeah, it really
Those
is
are the people that took the time and cared, or were.
No, that's not fair. I can't say it was me because I literally got so bored filling out their survey, and I felt that their questions were so mundane. I just ended up going back to watching Amazon Prime, and I think I was watching.
It was not the best survey. To be perfectly transparent, I got halfway through and I actually stopped. I didn't finish.
I mean,
really?
I built surveys on SurveyMonkey and love
because it was also they were asking like, what is your this? And this is before this.
I just thought of something, Barry. You know what we're gonna do when it drops? We are going to fill out this next survey live on our show.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I think that's brilliant. The three of us are going to walk through the survey, and we're all going to have chat answer it for us.
I love that hit you like a thunderbolt right now.
That's brilliant. It's just like
what struck me was the questions, and this was before today's, that actually got into some character details. The first one, it was just like basic, here's how we're going to go out building a character and attributes and shit like that. And a lot of the questions were like, what is your experience building a rogue with these? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I haven't built characters.
None of the questions focused on the test, like on the material.
Exactly.
Like, to me, the survey should have been quite blatantly, what did you think about our choice in dealing,
which is why I'm like, I can't answer half of these.
Yeah. It's almost like they were,
because it's not giving you an honest answer. Then
it's not even giving you an honest question. And to your point, Cher, it's like the survey felt like, to me, it was encapsulating their next effort for the next release. In other words, they were surveying for what they were going to organize for the next release. They're not surveying feedback. If you were surveying feedback, I could have wrote you a monkey survey that would have been a lot more efficient than what they wrote, and it would have been a lot more responsive. And also, I highly recommend, I know you're not listening, but if you are listening, Watsy, produce a survey that will email a copy back to the contributor. I guarantee you will have more participation. Why they don't do that is beyond me, because it's captured data. It's super easy to do.
That's basic UX.
It's super simple. But yeah, I would say that doing their survey was very, very blah, very unintelligible, not precise to the idea of what they released. It didn't really help generate the feedback I thought that would be necessary to give them feedback on. And I got halfway through it, and I'm like, if I have to answer another 20 questions like this, I may never touch this stuff ever again. This is
wow.
disheartening. It was,
here's an
it's
interesting
hard.
question. Here's an interesting question.
Mm.
And this is directed at both of you because you are both, I think it's fair to say, on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of player versus DM. Jason,
What
you
are
never
you saying?
fucking
Are you calling me old again?
I am.
Hold on. I can't hear you.
No, you always
my
say
old
that you
man
never
ear hair,
play.
There's a bird nested in it. Give me one.
And
give me a
Sharon,
minute.
you
Yeah,
have
you're
not
cuckoo.
DM'd. So seemingly, and this question just popped, and I don't know that I have an answer, but it just popped into my head. Do you feel that ONE D&D is going to serve players more or DMs equally?
I feel like it's being directed more towards the player.
I'd agree with that.
I would say that, yeah. And therein, I think there lies kind of where your pain points are, Jason, which is, are they going to blunt the whole system even more from a DM standpoint?
Right.
And I again, I'm just throwing this out there. Chat, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, love to hear your thoughts.
It's a good question, because the only thing that I think is the core column of producing great games, there are already more players than DMs. See, Fatal, you are so spot on. The fact that their survey didn't disseminate between the different crowds is
That's
what
a
really
good
pissed me
idea.
off. It was like, you know what? Ask me some DM survey questions, because that would be amazing. And to all these points that are popping up, my number one complaint about most of what they've done in the last 3 years is because they've done absolutely nothing to really create DM based like tool sets. I mean, their encounter system was a total failure. There's no integration to all their source books at the minutia level, other than what you create outside of their source books. Like, I can build I can build an amazing integrated thing in my OneNote, because it copies over the links for me, and I can organize it all in such a way that the top 20 things I need to refer to are linked into my OneNote, but yet they don't even have a custom dashboard for me as a DM. Like, hey,
see, and that's kind of what I was talking about in terms of, stop trying to improve the game. It's like the automobile industry. A lot of times you have a like an iconic car model, all right, and it's great, and people love it, and it's selling well. And because the way the automobile industry works, they come out with a model year change, and they change a bunch of shit on it for the worse, just for the sake of changing it and calling it new. And I'm not saying that ONE D&D is going to be for the worst, but I'm saying there are so many other ways to improve the experience of D&D that will also serve to bring in new players and new DMs. And that, that's kind of where I was getting at. To your point, there are a bunch of fundamental tools that are missing. I'd rather have that than.
So to this great question about the DM expansion piece, I think that's at the very core. Like, they could have easily released a 40-page summary or supplement called the DC core system that would help break down a lot of through example, tertiary encounter samples, tertiary narrative encounters, right? Where they could give you a guide that should be promoting their most fundamental success. Their biggest success was the DC core system that changed the very way the game could be played, the narrative experience, the flow, the continuity, the idea that you're no longer playing these 12-hour like heavy sessions of combat encounters, but they view success as a reason to not to do anything to it. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but you should do a lot more to say, let's release this addendum or compendium, or you and your DC system. How can we help? DC systems and monsters. What does it really mean? It's like, it's hard to explain because I live in a world of where you train people, and I focus on my core ethic, which is don't forget you trained them. It's like when you sell me your stuff, don't forget you sold me the stuff, so that the good stuff should still have your love, should still have your passion, and give some more guidance, give some more thought, give some more idea. Like if they released a small 20-page book that said, let's talk about the difference between monsters and creatures, I would read that in a heartbeat, because that's a fun read. It's an amazing read. Or
and so helpful,
right? If they released a 10-page book that said, hey, you're rogue and you, what does that mean?
You're rogue and you.
I don't want a 100-page documentarian on a rogue.
My druid and me.
Like almost to the point of your microtransaction idea, Bri. How brilliant would it be that every time you come into your digital experience, there's a pop-up that says, hey, we thought we'd release this, this little 10-page thing about the School of Evocation and what does it mean, and here are some helpful tips on how to use School of Evocation.
I mean, good God, you fill out a profile, a user, a community profile, and it's like, what are you interested in? Spellcasting, DMing, combat, and crossbows,
right.
And I mean, there's just it's so much.
Because if you really go out to the creator community, and I share, whenever you get a chance, go take a look at, like, I'm not a huge fan of their metrics on their sales metrics, but the RPG Guild, if you really go look at what the creators have done in there from a standpoint of content, essentially that's what they've done, right? They create 3, 5, 10-page synopses, right? Yeah, a wiki. Yeah, like a wiki of sorts.
That's nice.
That's absolutely dead on. Like, if I can jump onto my D&D Beyond, go to my customized dashboard that has all of my integrated shortcuts for the 10 campaigns that I run, right? And then laced into that dashboard experience is, oh, wow, they just released this little 2-page compendium on evocation. I'm going to add that to this campaign link because I know I've got a lot of arcane casters in a particular game. I could share that with them and we could have a discussion about that particular school of magic. One of the biggest community asks was, how can we make casting magic more fun? Like, what can we do to help both at the player and the DM level to make casting more fun? Like, of course there's material components, which can be fun, right? But descriptions of spells, what they physically look like. Like if they released an evocation 5-page guide on how to design the physical appearance of a spell related to evocation, that would be so much fun for me, because that's super creative. It's super absorbing from the standpoint of the ecosystem that I'm in. And I can have a lot of fun with that, sharing that with other players and using that as a way to kind of make some things in the game a little bit more exciting. But to me, those are the boat trips they keep missing. They keep watching those little canoe rides go by, and they're just waiting for that giant, cruise ship to slowly come in.
Yeah, they're just
the problems.
Yeah, they're just really focusing on that one thing, and they're not really noticing the other tire fires.
Yeah. You guys basically said more eloquently what I was trying to say. I mean, I do think that Sharon, your point of the whole purpose of ONE D&D is to make it more approachable is super valuable, and I think that is very important. But I kind of feel like they're doing this as a way to say, hey, pay attention to this and kind of forget about all the things that we're not doing that everybody actually really wants.
Yeah, they're like sweeping it under the rug,
see the need. Yeah, I don't see the need for this whole ONE D&D thing, to be perfectly honest.
Well, especially if you have a lot of confidence in your box sets. You have confidence in your box sets. They're kind of already doing what this is trying to do. It's like, box sets are fun. They're affordable. I mean, I could show you how to play D&D for free just off of the free subscription for D&D Beyond with the SRD. and and you could literally go out to the free community and you could play for years before you actually ever truly need to buy anything. We buy things because we find them interesting, informative, and we want to like make them part of our process. And it's like this D&D 1 thing feels very disassociated from the emotion of why we get into the game.
Yeah.
And I think they need to figure out a way to get that back. And you can't just call it playtest material and say the emotional problem's been solved.
Yeah. I think the real meat of this is lacking. It's a pot pie without anything inside the crust, basically.
Oh, I love crust.
Yeah.
It's so good. Warm.
Sharon, let me
buttery
ask you
crust.
this. Do you feel, given where you're at now, do you feel like the game needs to be made more approachable from a rules standpoint? I mean, for somebody that's never played D&D and it's their first or second time, of course, anything is going to seem daunting, okay?
Yeah.
But for somebody like you who is relatively new, and I know eventually we're going to have to stop using that to describe you, but in your experience so far, do you feel like, yeah, I really love what I've done in D&D so far, but I wish the rules were simpler or more concise or whatever? Or do you... I mean, what is your view on this whole D&D 1 endeavor?
I mean, honestly, it's fine. I think it's more about, I get more of like the source material and the understanding of the game from the DM and from players in the game. Like, we all kind of bounce off of each other and try to learn about the game as we go. Like, honestly, I think it would make more sense to give more arsenal to the DM when it comes to creating a story and building these environments and things like that. The DM is the source material, really, if you think about it. I mean, I honestly, I haven't even cracked open my player's handbook because I'm more relying on my group. Because D&D is a collaborative game to begin with. I mean, like, I don't have to go into my player's handbook because, there are people who already know the core material for the game for me to know how to play it.
That's a good question for you,
Andrew. Do you mean that I would pull out and use, or that I would throw away?
No, that feels more like for Barry, because like if you're a player, what's one of the mechanics you'd pull out as a player versus a DM? Because that will really help us kind of understand the differences in the message that they're sending.
Pull and use.
Yeah.
Or is it
pull?
Or is it too premature?
Well, I don't know. It's like if you're creating a character and you're looking at all of the things you can do as an action or a bonus action or as a reaction, or the hide action is different now, the blind sight's different now. There's so much that's different. Is there one particular one of those mechanics that would feel like, oh yeah, that's great, I'm going to use that? Yeah.
Like for characters, there's something that works better than in 5e.
Calling her on the spot. I love it.
I mean, well, that's the thing. I don't read the material that much. I'm really content with the character that I'm playing right now. I feel really comfortable for me to not want to look outside other things. But like I mentioned before, I think
Yes, you are.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you? Now I'm sweating.
Okay, now is where I need the doom, 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 doom. Can you guys hear this, by the way?
Well, because like the thing is that when I create a character, I create the person and I want to know the person before I even go into anything mechanically. Like if there was something that was preventing me from not creating a character like the bard necromancer that was, inhibiting me not to do that, then that's when I have a problem. That's when I think like, that needs to be changed, but I haven't come across that yet.
Yeah. And I think that boils down to I think that boils down to one important factor that they keep kind of leaving off the table, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it's too hard to vocalize or put into print, but the way that the narrative game has evolved, the narrative game is just kind of like produced such a different type of playing
Yeah.
that almost everybody who's been fortunate enough to play in a heavy narrative game that's lasted for years, they go back and they go, wow, I can't believe how stressed out I was about the mechanics.
Yeah.
You know, why was
Yeah.
I so worried about mechanics when, you know, I've got this excellent narrative experience now under my belt. And I think that's a challenge because I'm very fortunate in my play style. I'm very fortunate in my organizational skills, and I'm very fortunate in having amazing players at the table. So I don't know if you can replicate that. I don't know if you could try to replicate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same.
You know, I find your answer, Sharon, very telling. And
Was it good?
it kind of supports, I think, what we're all saying, which is that it seems almost more like song and dance to me. The whole D&D 1 thing seems a little more like song and dance. And I'm not completely bashing it, okay? Because I think so far, and I know it's very premature, but so far, I like what I see, since my biggest thing was the critical hit rules, but they changed those. So they are listening to feedback. But my point of contention with it is not necessarily that what they are doing is bad. It's just that there is so much more that could be done to improve the product and the experience. And it is all the stuff you just talked about. Give DMs more tools.
More tools.
Expand on how DMs can create and narrate and tell stories.
And monetize it in such a way that you're not being an obvious corporate gangster,
Yeah.
but do it in a
don't
way
rip people
that's
off.
good. Like,
Yeah.
if you do it digitally, it's $2. If you want to buy the really cool, slick, 12-page gloss that we're going to send out to the stores, we'll sell to you for $6. It's like you can monetize creativity as long as you're taking into consideration, the community that you're trying to monetize towards.
Well, and I think they're not. I think, to your point, what they're doing is
Spelljammer proved that.
Well, I think they're taking some of the homebrew. I mean, there's so much good homebrew out there.
Oh.
And it's, mine is
unreadable
all of the stuff that I've created is fantastic. I'm joking. No, but I think it's
Wow, Jason, really?
I think it's all of the homebrew out there is really great. And I do feel like, in terms of from a 50,000 foot view of what they're doing with the system, they're almost corralling it in a way more, instead of building and letting it be built upon with homebrew and stuff. I think they're going in the opposite direction from where people want the game to go.
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it be if they released a book that was 20 pages that said, how do you build your own spells?
Yeah.
Or
that'd be fun.
How
to build.
See,
how
the
to
problem
become
and I understand,
how to become a tinkerer.
To play devil's advocate, the problem with that is what my example earlier, where everything is evolving at once on its own kind of path, siloed, and then you look back and you're like, okay, well, now the system is so fucking convoluted because every spells and every class and combat and all this shit, everything, it's got these obscure rules that are hidden. This one is here, this one is here, this one is here. So I get it. I understand what they're doing, but I don't know. I
think it was 3.5 that finally kind of started toying with the idea of giving a much more kind of like structured way of helping people like evolve like professions and how to build your own things and how to do your own things. But they still hadn't really discovered or codified that DC system yet. So it was a lot harder to really integrate that into the 3.5, concept. And 4th edition was such a tangent in a totally different direction that most of what came before 4th edition, they've gradually been trying to, backpedal in 5th edition and bring it back into the proper, kind of utilization. But I mean, it's, you're always like, can you really ever make something truly normalized when it relies on a framework of random number generators? All you can really do is influence from top to bottom, but fundamentally the fun of the game, right, is that you have this great plan and you roll a 1. You have this horrible idea, you're going to die, but you roll a natural 20. That's what pulls the players in. And when you start turning that emotion into minutia, people just are like, that's fine. You got a good idea for some of it, but I'm just going to keep doing what I do. It's fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what really pulled me into D&D was like the narrative behind it all. Like you're creating the world, you're creating the characters, you're getting to know things on a more narrative level. I don't think mechanically into the game. Like, and I feel like what they're doing is sort of like a narrative aspect to like building your characters. Like, it's not even really deep diving into fixing issues in the core of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If all you wanted was mechanics, then play
a first-person shooter.
It's, I mean, to your point, Jason, about the core DC system as being the beauty of this game. As we're talking about this, I kind of want to see, like, here is the basic core rules. To use your example, 20-page, here's how the game works. Everything is based on the DC system, and then we go out and expand from there. Not a linear path, but the DC system is at the center of the dartboard, and everything goes out. And then here are how classes and abilities work. Here are how spells work. Here's skill tree. Here's an advanced rules for skills. Like, almost like everything is modular. That can just be put on top of those rules depending on your style of play. And
because I thought that's the way they were going to go at first with their marketplace sales, like you could pick and choose the digital pieces that you want to use and buy.
Well, that was D&D Beyond before the merger.
Right, that's what I'm
nothing
saying.
To do with WotC.
But I was hoping WotC would take a hint and see the success of the way that was working, and then realize,
if they took a hint, they would be focusing all their effort on D&D Beyond and not fucking ONE D&D.
I know. That does baffle me. It's like writing a check for a Bentley's and you're still taking the bus. It's weird.
I told you.
I'm not even a huge fan of the lazy programming in D&D Beyond, but I am a huge fan of how easy it makes all the players able to play.
The foundation of that tool is fantastic. It's unbelievable. And that's why the more we discuss this, the more I feel like ONE D&D is this song and dance over to the side saying, oh, look, we're making the game better. Well, are you really?
I bundling and unbundling.
Yes, you can still buy all that individual stuff.
But I was hoping that it would birth the whole idea of creating a lot of small content on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like a 10-page release here, a 20-page release here. And all I got were digital dice I don't use and Spelljammer. It's like, as a reward for being like in our alpha group of D&D Beyond, we present you with a bucket of shit. It's just like, I'm okay. I don't need that, so it's just weird. It's weird. It's like, I was really patient with D&D Beyond for 2 reasons. One, it is great how my players or our players enjoy the click aspect, right? I can click on a spell and it's going to give me a description. I can click on a +3 to my strength. It's going to roll a dice and add the +3 for me. I can click on my to hit or my damage and it sorts a lot of the minutia out for me so I can focus. So
I fucking hate the digital dice. Fucking hate
it. Literally came into existence to punish Sharon in a previous life.
And you know what is really funny? As you know, they say there's not unlucky dice, it's the roller. And we all know this. You could have a whole night of fantastic dice rolling, or like my last session, a whole night of fucking ones. It transcends
Oh.
physical and digital dice.
Yeah, it does. But like my main reason for hanging on with D&D Beyond has always been, at some point I'm going to get my dashboard. At some point, I'm not going to have to constantly regurgitate their stuff.
Fuck you, Gary. It was the dice.
You know, fundamentally, I'm not going to have to regurgitate their stuff into another kind of, another repository, and I can actually exist in one place and have, a fun experience and a clean experience. But they've just never done anything with a dashboard. And it's like any basic UX UI person is going to tell you, after you solve your menus, you want to build a dashboard.
Yeah,
that's the way we all think.
Yep.
If it's like our phones.
You're preaching to the choir, my friend.
Our phones are designed the way they are because they're user friendly, and they all rely on dashboard systems. And it's like, I'm not trying to bash what they've built. I'm just bashing the fact they don't seem to have a roadmap that makes any sense. Like there's no
bingo.
Even when I get the reports and the emails and the forum posts about, hey, you want to hear about what D&D Beyond is up to? I read a couple of those and I'm like, cool, another set of dice are coming. That's awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Can I use that
100%.
can I use that for my personalized dashboard?
I agree with you 100%. Very telling, and as on top of Sharon's response about what do you think of one.
It's funny at the beginning of this conversation, and we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. But at the beginning of this conversation,
you guys were so optimistic.
Well, I was
Jason turned me into a fucking curmudgeon.
No, because I think this is an interesting way to evaluate a journey when you start a subject, right? I was actually disheartened by D&D, the ONE D&D second release material, because it just didn't feel like all that much for me, and it didn't seem all that interesting. But listening to Sharon summarize it, and from your perspective, I'm not as bad on it anymore. And I think what really shifted you more towards being a little kind of wonky on it, Bri, is that when you started reflecting on the surveys and then beginning to realize this just isn't your demographic that they're catering to, you're beginning to go, oh, well, this is actually just a really easy way of cleaning up what they've already done. And they're building, a lid for their cup of coffee to say, oh, here's your perfect cup of coffee.
That is really funny how the dynamic of this conversation has gone and how both yours and my opinions change. You're right. I think in a vacuum, if I look at what they're doing, I'm more optimistic about it. I think it's a great thing. But in regard to the deeper conversation, it's
and then you had to drag, we dragged D&D Beyond into it, which then adds another layer of, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
they did buy D&D Beyond, and this is what we got. And you're like, now I'm wondering, is the new play material just one giant survey?
Your point of like their roadmap, I wish I knew what their corporate roadmap was, because it just seems like, this ONE D&D thing, it's just fucking, it's not even low-hanging fruit. It's rotted fruit that's already fallen to the ground, basically.
Well,
low-hanging fruit is fleshing out D&D Beyond, to your point.
Well, and it's interesting because one of the things I was noticing on here, and I saw this earlier, and I meant to slice it out and put it somewhere in my notes because this comes up a lot. So there's a blurb about creature type, right? That's been an ongoing back and forth for a while now, because the way spells interpret creature type, this is a good example of a good way of pulling in this conversation. Creature type. All creatures in D&D, including every player character, has a special tag in the rules that identify the type of creature they are. Most player characters are of the humanoid type. Here's a list of the game's creature type in alphabetical order. So aberration, beast, celestial, construct, dragon, elemental, fae, fiend, giant, humanoid, monstrosity, ooze, plant, or undead. So they know this is a concern, right? These types don't have rules themselves, but some rules in the game affect creatures of certain types in different ways. For example, the description of the Cure Wound spell specifies the healing doesn't work on constructs. So one of the things that comes up on a regular well, I shouldn't say on a regular basis, but when you hit tier 3, tier 4 gaming within the D&D community, they start using spells like Dominate Monster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of creature referencing in that description. And if you don't know what a creature is, and then you begin to realize Dominate Monster can dominate any targeted creature, right? So the way a spell is written to a certain vernacular, and then you get a nice, clean, clarified statement like this, you can turn creature type into a 2-page like expansion.
Because then there's no guesswork behind it.
Exactly. And that's where the customized dashboard helps. Because if I can tag 2-page or 3-page addendums to my custom dashboard, then when I have identified a table of players that dominate the question and answer syndrome around 20 things, I have everything referenced and ready to go. It's all point and click, and I can answer their questions without slowing down the game.
Right.
That's the continuity factor. That's what the narrative style is supposed to bring you, is this really like all my combat encounters, with the exception of like a major boss, but on average bear, hour and a half, 2 hours, that way you can still have a fun combat, have the after action of the combat, roll the bodies, do all the things you love to do after real fun combat.
Roll the bodies.
I know. Callista uses that term. Loot
oh my God. Wow.
Like Callista,
I'm gonna roll this dead motherfucker for his clothes.
Callista will lean on the table and look right at me. I want to roll the bodies.
I'm gonna roll this bitch.
Yeah. And like I'm hearing everybody watch the Jeffrey Dahmer show, so like that just makes it even more worse.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I started watching that.
No.
Jason, I agree with you 100%. But to play devil's advocate from a corporate standpoint or a production standpoint, that just, those 20-page addendums, you end up then with a steamer trunk crammed with sheets of paper spilling out of the seams. You know what I'm saying? That's how you get to a system that's so convoluted.
It's a very loose coalition of ideas. Ideally, what I'd love to see is that you have a dashboard, you go capture the pages from your source material that you've already digitally paid for, and then you build your own addendum. That's mostly what I'm going for.
But again, to play devil's advocate, what happens when they need to publish a book?
That's separate. That's mostly me just thinking in terms of a monetized theory that's probably defunct, because most people don't read books anymore. Most people read their phone, they read a tablet, or they watch, or as my as people used to tell me, or as Bart Simpson said, let me read my stories on TV. It's just it's just that the culture of consuming information has shifted, it's changed, and I get it. They have a very difficult time now of, we can either try to print a book that's going to cost us $8 and sell it for $9, or we could spend the money on a really cool dashboard and help everyone build what they want. Yeah, you elected me to lead, not read.
Yeah, you can build your own compendium.
So the 70 to 100 pounds of shit that I schlepped over to Andrews.
That's all?
Fuck you.
70 to 100 pounds? Let me
that did not
1989.
That did not include one book
with 80 million books and modules. And
that did not. All that gear did not include one single book. Everything I did was digital.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Did you take a TV? Is that why?
No, it was 50 pounds of Dwarven Forge.
Oh, well, there you go. That was.
Oh, you brought Dwarven Forge. Oh,
I did, cool. And I'm not joking when I say 50 or 60 pounds.
They are the Tupperware of terrain.
Yeah, I still have a love-hate relationship with them, with how fucking expensive it is, and they're goddamn trying to keep stuff in stock. But just nothing works as simple as it. There's so far nothing to me compares to
5-year-old fingers don't just grow on trees, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I laughed at that.
was even
Thank
funnier
you,
than
sir.
the joke. That was great, Cher. She's looking at me like, all right, the moral fiber in Jason's game needs to really play out in my real life. It is, it's funny.
So I think the moral of the story is
Yes.
ONE D&D, not necessarily a bad thing, but a major misuse of resources at this point in time.
I think so. I think
They're
there's
not taking full advantage.
Yeah, and I think they have a lot of better things to work on. I think this is premature. I don't think it's necessary. I think there's a huge digital community to embrace first. There's a huge social community to embrace first. I think there's a lot more creativity out there that you can deal with before you start this giant marketing juggernaut that's probably really not going to change much.
Yeah, this was a great talk.
This was
good. And I think that what you just said pretty much sums it up. So we should probably just end on a high note.
Yeah.
Rollies.
Thank you, chat. Rollies. You guys were really funny tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Thank you, Jordan and Andrew, for joining us.
Fatal and Ogren, always good to see you.
Gonna roll with my
and Gary, thanks for popping in. I know you were watching the football game, but all right, are we rolling?
Is football still a thing?
Oh, a 19.
Oh, I got a 17.
I got a 3.
I got a 3. I'll go to.
By the way,
3.
That's going to be your voice for the next campaign, right, Cher?
I've got a 3.
My demand has been placed.
Well, all I got was a 3, sir. Good, sir.
Reminds me of the Peanuts Halloween, the Charlie Brown Halloween special. I got a Snickers. I got a Reese's Pieces. I got a candied apple. I got a rock.
I've only got 3 copper.
All right, Brian, take it away.
All right. Well, as always, thank you all for joining us. Love that chat is growing, and you guys, the interacting with you guys is always just fantastic. There's a lot of really good conversation and feedback. So thank you guys all. Don't forget to check out Crazy Cultists. The link is in the chat. Sharon, where can we find you? Both literally and
figuratively
and existentially.
You can find me in the Cybernet over at BarryBot on Instagram, and you could also catch me on Saturdays at the D&D Club's Twitch channel for the Graying Lands campaign, where I play a very awesome druid Kalistar named Mayra. Come check us out. We are on live 4 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, I got the time right. Jason, where can we find you?
You can find me over at TTRPG Academy over in the Twitch Central. That is the hub of all things Twitchy. You can also find all my socials there. I'm in the Twitter stands, the Instagram stands, and I'm in the Linktree stands. So come on over there, and if you want to just chat with me in our Discord, we've got a great Discord of like almost 400 people that regularly try to talk when they can, and it's not one of those Discords where you get punished for not talking. You talk at your own pace and, interact at your own pace. We have a lot of games there that you can actually sit in on or even participate on if you choose to. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Cool. And as always, you can find me at RPG & Co. on Instagram, probably the best place to get a hold of me. But check out Linktree, same, rpgandco.com. Lot of things in the works. I finally got that intro screen up.
Amazing.
But we have a lot of stuff.
Don't go anywhere. Wait. Before we say goodnight, folks, please. Got to see this. This is so cool. That's just the coolest thing.
Thank you so much. You
I
know,
just
I
think that's so cool.
rarely, in my day to day, I rarely ever get to do video work, and I just
Mm.
love doing it. So I
It's
cracked
fun.
open Premiere. Yeah, I cracked
Fun.
open Premiere and figured I'd have some
Yeah.
fun today. So
That's
thank you.
fun. All right, everybody, take us away,
Also, before I forget, Sharon has secured an awesome guest for us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He is a terrain maker from Italy. So we are going to record that
Bello.
in October. Bella, bella. We're going to record that in October.
Sorry.
Because of the time difference, we cannot do it as a live stream, obviously, because he'd be up at like 3 a.m. So we're going to pre-record that, but it will be up on VOD, and we will alert you as to that. So Sharon, thank you for setting that up. I'm super stoked for
Very
to have him
excited.
on. So, otherwise, be kind, play games, and till next Thursday.
Bye, everyone.